So, folks, I told you this is a real amazing story because we now know that this whole group, the cult leader you see is this individual named Jack Lasota, who goes by the nickname Ziz. Uh, Alleged leader of cult-like Zizian group to be held without bail. So he's held without bail. We predicted this before the arrest even happened because he had actually faked his death so much as putting an obituary in the paper. A Maryland court on Tuesday ordered a blogger, now they're calling him a blogger, known as Ziz, who allegedly leads a cult-like group connected to 6 killings, to be held without bail. The blogger, there we'll put him on the screen, Jack Lasota, he's 34, of Berkeley, California, was arrested on Sunday along with Michelle Zako, 32, of Medea, Pennsylvania, and Daniel Blank, 26, of Sacramento, California. They face charges including trespassing, obstructing, and hindering in possession of a handgun in the vehicle. The Zizians have been tied to the killing of a U.S. Border Patrol agent, David Malland, near the Canadian border in January, and 5 other killings in 3 states. Lasota, Zako, and Blank were arrested in Frostburg, Maryland on Sunday afternoon. The judge in the case ordered Lasota, who uses she, her pronouns, held without bail, citing concerns about her being a flight risk and a danger to public safety. Prosecutors said Lasota appears to be the leader of an extremist group known as the Zizians that has been linked to the killings. The 3 were expected to appear remotely for a bail hearing on Tuesday at Allegheny County District Court in Cumberland, Maryland. The Zizians have been tied to the death of a woman during an attack on a California landlord in November 2022, the landlord's subsequent slaying in January, and the December 2022 deaths of Zako's parents in Pennsylvania, and a highway shootout in January in Vermont that left Border Patrol agent Milan and a car passenger dead. A Frostburg resident told police he wanted 3 suspicious people off his property after they had parked 2 box trucks there and asked to camp for a month, according to police documents. They were dressed in black and 2 wore gun belts holding ammunition, according to police. Officers found a rifle in the back of 1 truck and a handgun on the front floorboard. Zako, who refused to put her hands behind her back and was taken to the ground, was also carrying a handgun. Milan, the Border Patrol agent, was killed in January, the 20th of January shootout, following a traffic stop in Coventry, Vermont, a small town about 20 miles from the Canadian border. Ophelia Buckholt, a passenger in the car, also died, and the driver, Teresa Youngblood, has pled not guilty to federal firearms charges. Officials have said that the guns they were carrying were brought by a person of interest in the December 31st, 2022 deaths of Richard and Rita Zako in Chester Heights, Pennsylvania. This is also convoluted. Here we go. There's Richard and Rita Zako. They believe that the guns came from Michelle Jacqueline Zako, the daughter of Richard and Rita Zako. Maximilian Schneider, who applied for a marriage license with Youngblood in November, is charged with January 17th stabbing death of Curtis Lind, who we see in this picture in the middle there. Very convoluted story. Curtis Lind was a Vallejo landlord who had survived an early attack by members of the Zizian group and was set to testify against them. Officials have offered few details of the cross-country investigation, but Associated Press interviews and a review of court records and online postings tell the story of how a group of young, highly intelligent computer scientists, most of them in their 20s and 30s, met online, shared anarchist beliefs, and became increasingly violent. Their goals are not clear, but online writings including topics such as radical veganism, gender identity, and artificial intelligence. At the middle of it all is Ziz, the leader of the a strange group whose members are sometimes called Zizians. Here you have Jack Lasota, who is Ziz. Lasota published a dark and sometimes violent blog under the name Ziz, and in one section described her theory that the two hemispheres of the brain could hold separate values and genders and often desire to kill each other. So this is very extremely bizarre. And that little write-up was from The Guardian, a Maryland publication, right up on top of this. But this should be, and I believe is, a national story. And when you put it all together, though, this Richard Zako and Rita Zako are the parents of Michelle Jacqueline Zako. And they were murdered, shot in the head in their home in Pennsylvania in 2022. And the two suspects in this are right there. Michelle Zako, the daughter, and Ziz, a.k.a. Jack Lasota. And then the other two murders are in the car stop. David Milan, the Border Patrol agent, and Felix Buchholz, who was killed in the shootout. So that's 4, right? And then number 5 was a Ziz member by the last name, or first and last name, Emma Bohanian, who was shot and killed by this man, Curtis Lind, who was also a murder victim. There equals the 6 bodies in different incidences. So in the incident where the group was arrested in Maryland, the MO was very much the same. They were trying to park their box trucks on the property of a would-be landlord, and he wanted no part of them. He didn't really accept their behavior and immediately called the police. And they weren't all that cooperative with police when the police did get there. So very bizarre, extremely bizarre situation here. But now at least we have Jack Lasota, a.k.a. Ziz, Michelle Zako, possibly the 2 biggest suspects in the murder of Richard and Rita Zako. And what was this cult all about? See, these are some of the questions we have, and I've asked numerous times, like, why did the FBI not publish more about this? Because look, they must have put out some type of law enforcement bulletin, because when the Maryland police got there, they were very suspicious, and they went to the next level of finding out who these people were. And a little more intrusive, because first of all, it was a trespass allegation. But they dug further, they found guns, and they found that Jack Lasota, a.k.a. Ziz, was wanted. This is from Fox News that's covering this now.
Details in the bizarre story of a cult allegedly linked to the killing of a U.S. Border Patrol agent, David Mayland. On Sunday, Maryland State Police arrested 3 alleged members of the group known as Zizians. Among them, the alleged leader, who was ordered held without bond by a Maryland court yesterday. They joined 2 already in custody. The Zizians, just so you know, have been tied to 6 killings across 3 states. So one of those was the U.S. Border Patrol agent, Mayland. He died on Inauguration Day, January 20th, near the Canadian border in Vermont. And 2 others who were killed were alleged members of the cult. National correspondent Griff Jenkins has more. And so, Griff, this will be the first time many of us will hear of Zizians, but apparently the feds have been watching them for a while.
They have. And good morning, Harris. This has all the makings of a Netflix cult docudrama. These Zizians appear to be a group of mostly transgender computer scientists who met online, united in anarchist beliefs, including radical veganism, and turned violent. The 3 members of the cult you mentioned arrested on charges of trespassing and gun possession in a very remote area of Maryland. It included the alleged leader. You see here, 34-year-old Jack Lasota on the left side of your screen. He goes by the name Ziz. There are two other members as well. Allegheny County's sheriff says he has no idea why they were there.
They gave different names, which is a telltale sign they're trying to hide something. So that's why I believe the officers checked a little further, started running some more checks. The only thing that I'm curious about is why they chose this particular area to try to camp out at. And we're still developing that.
The Zizians are tied, as you mentioned, to at least 6 murders spanning the country in 3 states, from California to Pennsylvania and Vermont, including the deaths of a landlord in California in 2022, an elderly couple in Pennsylvania, and of course, Border Patrol agent Mayland in Vermont last month. Just 20 miles he was killed from the Canadian border. But little is known about the group or its motives, Harris. Independent journalist Andy No has been tracking them for a while.
I would describe some of the crimes that they're accused of as being demonic. You could say an elderly couple that were killed in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, were shot execution style in their homes on New Year's Eve a couple of years ago. FBI dropped the ball on this because the killings go back to 2022.
But that last point, Harris, these 3 in Maryland, including the leader that's being held, the FBI, according to Maryland officials, have gotten very involved in this case, trying to put the pieces together. Harris?
Yeah, I think it's so important what President Trump is doing now, because he is focusing on the southern border, but you often will hear him mention the northern border too. And we know that the numbers had started to tick up during the Biden's latter part of his administration. So there's work to do in the north, which is why the president's had all those conversations with Canada. And even at one point, Griff said that, hey, your option is to become the 51st state of the United States. He was joking, but we'll see.
So that sort of gives you a little bit of background. However, what was the ultimate goal? What is the ultimate goal of this group? What were they doing? To me, what was scary here was the MO, the modus operandi. Follow the modus operandi, right?